Hello, I am Samantha Tomlinson.
And I'm Kevin Tracy. Welcome back to Movie Reel, folks.
So, what were you saying? You think I'm just.
Uh, yeah, no, my birthday is in about a month, and I'm just like really scared that you're just gonna send me some like really weird movie, like the animated Titanic movie or the movie Dancing It's On, because you just sent me like that clip of like some guys reacting to that, and oh my god, that is a weird movie. I've only seen like a few like clips of it here and there because you sent me like an hour long video. I
It
was like,
is.
I'm not gonna
They.
watch that whole thing.
So, yeah, these guys are on YouTube. They're called Good Bad or Bad Bad. They watch a bad movie and then they decide if it's good bad or like bad bad. Like they're all
Yeah,
bad. Like that's not the question. It's just like, is this something you could watch with other people and laugh at, or is this just painful? But
yeah.
like, so I found this movie and I watched the review and I was losing my mind. Like the part where the guy is anger dancing and then it like cuts to like a helicopter and he's spinning around and it cuts to a helicopter.
It
I was
just looks like
crying.
a really crappy version of High School Musical, but with like a Bollywood budget.
wait, wait, are Bollywood budgets low?
Some of them are. Some of them
Really?
actually are. Some of them, like. Well, some of the movies I've seen, they've had like really low budgets. It's like, oh wow, this is kind of like really cheap looking, but I have seen like a couple like clips on like VFX artist reacts where they just straight up only did like a Bollywood episode. It's like, where are these movies hiding? They have like the weirdest effects, but they tell some like really weird stories. Like they have like their own version of like the Terminator over there, and it's just really weird.
Their own version of the Terminator? Like,
They have like it's literally just like the Terminator, but it's an Indian guy. It's all based in India. He like wears like the exact same thing like Arnold Schwarzenegger does.
yeah.
It's weird. I don't know how else to describe it.
I haven't
Uh,
seen all of Terminator. I've seen part of it.
the the series or just the first movie?
The first movie.
Okay.
I got up to where, like. So, what's the guy's name? So, there's Sarah Connor, the Terminator, and then the guy that also came from the
uh,
future.
that's Kyle Reese. He's like John Connor's like second in command. And
Yeah.
do you care if I
No,
spoil this for
I
you?
mean, I already know he has to go back in time and get his best friend's mom pregnant because he's his
Yeah,
best friend's father.
but
Which is like,
know that.
what a twist! Yeah, I think you told me that.
Yeah, he was sent back in time to protect
And the
Sarah
friend
Connor.
and John Connor probably knows this, right?
Oh yeah, John Connor fully knows this.
What a weird like. I mean, I mean,
Yeah,
what
it's
a
a
weird thing
weird
to realize.
it's a weird dynamic, but it's also like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Do you think at any point in his life, John Connor was, "Hey, do you want to go
Dad,
play some catch?"
hey, Dad. But
What'd you call me? Oh, okay, Kyle.
I mean, they did kind of have like not really like, hey, you want to play catch moment there, but there were like there was a moment kind of similar ish to that
You
in
were at my swim meet, cheering me
no
on.
in Terminator Salvation, which was like I think the fourth movie in this series. It wasn't that good, but I mean, it wasn't like Terminator 3 bad or Genesis bad. It was just a generic action movie that no one really asked for. But there's a part in that where Kyle Reese is in that and he's like 16 and John Connor's like it's Christian Bale. Um, and they eventually like meet up with each other at like the end of the movie and John Connor fully knows who Kyle Reese is. Like, oh my god, this is my dad. I need to make sure if he dies then I don't exist. That's gonna completely like mess up like this weird time travel plot we got going on. Um,
Time travel's iffy for me. I'm
yeah, and they also never fully explain how the machines had time travel. Like they never explains like, oh yeah, we've been developing it for years. Why? You guys are winning in the
we've
future. There's no point.
we've been developing for years, and
It's like why? Why? Question: why? You guys could just gas the planet. Game over. Machines win.
no, 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 we got to time travel.
It's like, but we got to go back in time to kill the leader of humanity. It's like just kill him here in the present. It's like, but he's beating us in the future. It's like, how? You guys are machines. You outnumber
See,
humanity
time
1,000
travel for
to one.
me just I used to think I only liked it when it was Terminator or Harry Potter style, where it's just a time loop. So basically, what's going to happen is what's going to happen, and it's just really
Oh, and
about.
also Back to the Future. You forgot about Back to the
Well, no,
Future.
Back to the Future. He changes the future. He changes like his parents are happier and better. He makes it better, but he still changes it. The
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
That's what
That's
I
fair.
mean. Like in Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry feels somebody. He feels as somebody hit him in the head with a rock. Hermione thinks she sees somebody, and then they realize, oh, Harry thinks he sees his dad. Oh wait, no, Hermione hits him in the head with a rock, or that. Like they're. It's all just really fulfilling task. Like that. Like I liked because it was like, oh, it comes together. But then
Yeah.
we learn it's more just they have to be at this place. They have to do these things. So it all and like then the next and when they finish the next Harry and Hermione are going to do it. But then or like in Terminator it's a little bit of it's kind of time loop, but it's all a little more.
Yeah, no, Terminator time travel gets like super confusing, especially when it gets towards Genesis. I watched that movie and I literally like had to stop and like had to like look up how that movie made sense because it starts off with like the like humanity like beating the machines in the past, like, all right, now we got to send Kyle back into the past to like protect Sarah Connor and like protect her and like start this cycle over again. But as they send Kyle back in, there's like a machine there that like kills all the other humans there and like assimilates John Connor and completely changes the timeline. So when Kyle Reese goes back to the past and like finds Sarah Connor, she already is like she's like a badass, like already hunting other Terminators and
Oh,
has
that's
like
the new
Arnold's.
one, right?
Yeah, yeah. This is the one that came out like
Oh,
a couple years ago.
couple wait, what was the most recent one that came out?
That was Terminator Dark Fate.
Yeah.
The one I'm talking about is Terminator Genesis.
Okay.
So somehow some interference in the future changed the past, and it completely created a
Uh,
new separate timeline. And I don't remember how they explained how it completely changed and splintered off into a new separate timeline. It was really confusing and it made no sense when I was watching it, but it was also I was also really frustrated with that movie because they straight up just spoiled like a huge plot point in the movie in one of the trailers,
oh,
and
that's stupid.
I absolutely hated the movie for that just because of that. It's like, are you
Did you
fucking
know
kidding
it
me?
was a huge plot point when
It,
you saw the trailer, or no?
oh, absolutely, yeah, no. Do you want me to just straight up tell you?
I don't care. Yeah, I don't
Okay,
care.
yeah, no. The trailer shows off that
It's in the
in
trailer, so
in like present day, like 2010 or like whatever past that they go back to like where they send Kyle Reese to protect Sarah Connor. They're like running away from some Terminator, and they run into John Connor, and he's like, "Hey, mom." It's like, "Hey, mom. Hey, Kyle." It's like, and they're both like, "Wait, what?" Like, John, what are you doing here? It's like, "Don't worry." And then it just reveals that he's a Terminator. It's like, "Wait, what? What? He was
uh
a Terminator this whole time?" It's like,
she
"You should have been
wait,
paying more close attention, Kyle." It's like, "What?
was it
This makes
wait,
no sense."
did she in the first Terminator does Sarah Connor have sex with the Terminator? Is it Mamma Mia style and she doesn't know which one's the father?
Oh my god,
What
no.
what a movie that would be. I
Oh
don't
my
know if it's my I don't know if the father of my son is my son's best friend or a robot.
I don't know. Yeah, but no, that movie was just really frustrating from that point forward because I knew like the biggest plot point and like the main villain was John Connor secretly manipulating this whole thing because he was a Terminator this whole time or
So does it just completely
something. I don't.
contradict everything that's already happened?
Yeah, they completely rewrite
Oh,
the entire
so they
timeline.
they Highlander 2'd it, where it's just Let's just make the
No,
first movie obsolete.
not even that. Not even the first movie. The entire series. They completely erased like 4 movies and like the entire thing. They just like full on hard reset. They were basically trying to do what J.J. Abrams did with like the Star Trek movies. Just like weird time travel thing happens, completely changes the past to affect the future to have something different.
I hate when they do that, mainly because it's when you have like the original, it almost kind of ruins the originals, because then like you could technically, yes, I'm not going to watch past this because it gets ridiculous, stupid after this, or
Yeah.
it's really shitty, whatever. But you also know that's not the story. As bad as it is, the story doesn't end here. It just kind of tampers with what already
Yeah.
exists.
Well, I mean, I actually kind of liked what J.J. Abrams the Star Trek movies because like
I've
I've
never
seen
seen
like a
those, so I can't judge those.
yeah.
But
Like I've seen like a couple of like the old ones with like Shatner and Picard, and like those are fun movies. But then I didn't really like I wasn't like a Trekkie like
mm-hmm.
per se. Like my dad like watches like the shows like pretty much like all the time, so he knew like the story for the most part and like those old movies a lot more than I did, especially since I was like I was really little when I saw those movies with my dad. But when I went to see the new ones with like Chris Pine and all
Zachary
the
Quinto.
yeah, like all those people, um, I was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. And and I'm watching it with my dad, and he's like, oh wait, like this didn't happen, this didn't happen. It's like, oh man, they're changing all this stuff, and he's getting really into it because it's all he's seeing it like this is a brand new story for him, and I'm watching it because this is a brand new story for me because like I don't really know these characters that well. I didn't grow up watching Spock or Kurt or Uhura. Like I
Yeah,
didn't really grow up knowing these characters, so it's just really cool kind of seeing it like through this like new story. It's just like, oh, this is kind of cool, and I think that's what they were trying to do with Terminator, and it just didn't
it
work because
failed.
they did not explain that well how it changed, and they just spoiled like their main thing like right off the bat.
That's dumb.
Yeah, and I have no idea where Dark Fate falls in. If that's supposed to be a continuation of Genesis, or if it's supposed to be like tacked on to like the original trilogy for like the first 3 Terminator movies. It just I
Yeah,
don't know. It's just kind of up in the air.
yeah.
Um,
It has
yeah,
been over almost 13 minutes, and we've talked about time traveling, Terminator,
and
Star
Star
Trek.
Trek. We have not once mentioned the
What
movie we're actually going to talk about this week.
what movie are we doing, Kevin?
Clearly, we're talking about Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
How
How did
could
you
that?
not know that from what
How
we've
is
been
that
talking
not
about?
clear? Because we're talking
Yeah.
about ridiculous things.
Yes, clearly. Let's go with that. We had
That's the
this planned
theme.
this whole time.
So, you want to take the lead on this one? You're more into Monty Python than I am.
Yeah, no, I really wanted to do this episode of Monty Python mainly because like Holy Grail was like my first introduction to like the entire like Monty Python crew, and I absolutely loved this movie when I first saw it because it was kind of like one of those movies where I sat down not fully knowing what to expect. Like I was kind of expecting like, oh, it's gonna be like a tongue in cheek like fantasy adventure story. Like it's gonna have like a beginning, middle, and end. It's gonna have like a 3 like a full story arc. This movie was gonna make sense watching it, and it's like, oh, it's gonna have like funny characters. And as I'm watching, it's like, oh, okay, it's got like some like funny vignettes, and it's just gonna be like a bunch of like stories of like all these knights searching for the Grail. It's like, okay, that's kind of funny. It's like, oh, Lancelot's killing everyone at a wedding. Like that's funny. Sir Robin's running away. That's hilarious. Um, and
Sitting down to watch a movie and you know nothing about it. It
yeah,
it can go two ways. It can go
yeah.
two ways.
So was this your like first time like fully watching it, or was this like your first time watching it in like a long time or something?
Um, I didn't even watch the whole thing. I was kind of skimming through it to like get the highlights. I've seen it when me, and like a couple of our friends all watched it like a year
Oh
plus ago.
yeah.
That was
Okay.
my first full time seeing it. Up until that point, I'd seen parts, and I had seen up until I think a couple years before a different movie night, and we were watching Monty Python, and we got up to Lancelot, and then we stopped. Like it'd been one of those movies where I'd seen just I knew the best jokes of it, but I hadn't
Yeah.
sat down and watched the whole thing. I think a couple years ago that was my first full time seeing it. But I remember I was just so confused. I'm like, wait a minute, where's everybody else? And he was like, no,
Yeah.
everyone's separated to go find the Holy Grail. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I remember watching this movie being super confused because it's like, wait, why are they making a Trojan bunny? Like, why don't they just try to like sneak in like normally? It's like, wait, they're not even in the Trojan bunny. How is this plan supposed to work? They're making this
Uh,
makes no sense.
the Trojan
Or
Bunny.
that movie was just like really funny because it's so iconic now that I want to say like a few years ago there was just like a huge resurgence of that movie where everyone and anyone wanted to buy like different like memorabilia and like merchandise and just it like people like rediscovered that movie like 20 years after it came out and it just kind of blew up from there and it's kind of fizzled out since then but it's still one of those movies where it's like oh you have to see it at least once.
Was it a box office success? Do you know?
It kind of it came with like moderate success. It was just one of those movies where it's either like you loved it or you hated it. It didn't really like break new ground. It was just kind of like an oddball comedy, kind of like Napoleon Dynamite when that came out. That
Yeah.
was like a movie where it's like you either thought this movie was really funny or you thought it was really meh and you didn't like it.
This
And
yeah.
yeah, and I know you were like one of those people who were like kind of like meh.
Well, this movie was more like there's like plenty of jokes and scenes that I really like. But the to be honest, this movie's like it's not like a the story. It's mostly jokes. There is a story
Yeah,
that ties that all together, but it's not like there's not like major character development or anything like that. It's just meant to be fun, and it's just simply made for the sake of fun. It's interesting the way like John Cleese said that the whole making it was a huge pain because it's Scotland and so it was wet
yeah,
and raining the whole time, and how they got the funding for this movie for like it was like 400,000 something to make this movie. And
yeah.
I
It
know,
was surprisingly short.
and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, I think another band funded this. And I was just before just watching John Cleese on Seth Meyers. This was like a couple years ago talking about this, and he actually said I think for Life of Brian that they couldn't get funding and George Harrison gave them the funding. Like it's
Yeah,
they had basically they had solid allies to
yeah.
just kind of
But
help them survive.
but the funny thing was about this movie is this movie is like really iconic and one of the things that is really funny is the ending of how it ends so abruptly like the main characters just straight up get arrested and the movie just ends right there and the reason why they did that is because the studio completely ran out of money so they had to end it so I guess what they had planned was they had like this huge like climactic finish because the movie ends with uh Sir oh god what was his name like Sir Galahad and Arthur like are charging like this French castle after like all their other friends have died along with like this huge army to
Yeah.
assault like the French guys because they have the Grail or they think they have the Grail and they just immediately get arrested by these cops because apparently one of their like knight friends killed this like guy who was narrating the movie, and these cops have been looking for them in the background ever since.
That's kind of like that's kind of perfect. It's like almost. I mean, no, I don't want to say like a Seinfeld ending, but it's one of those
Yeah,
weird endings that just kind of. Yep, this makes sense. This is accurate. Yeah.
yeah. It's just really funny, and it's also kind of impressive the amount of people who played multiple roles in this.
That's the thing.
Like,
It's like John Cleese is plays so many people.
yeah, I think he. When I was watching this, I think I counted him playing like 9 or 10 different characters.
What he's
Yeah,
Lancelot. He's the French guy. Those are the only two I know.
he was the one who got turned into a newt by the witch. I
Okay.
got turned into a newt. It's like, a newt? I got better.
Oh wait, he's the knight or the one that says he got turned into a newt?
He's the guy who got turned into a newt. Yeah.
Oh, the witch.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not even
Oh,
my
but
real nose. It's a
yeah.
false one. I don't know why. Like, it's not even. It's not mine. It's a false one.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Like,
but yeah, Michael Palin, I think is how you say his name. He plays 12 different characters throughout this entire movie.
oh my
They
god.
had to go through so many different separate roles because the crew was so small. Like the budget was so small that most of the extras were just played by the cast and were played by the crew. Just whenever they weren't working, it's like, Mike, you're not working the boom mic. Get in like this like thing and start wrestling in the mud.
Also had like the coconuts. That was because they couldn't afford horses. That wasn't. Wouldn't it be funny if? No, it was because they couldn't
Yeah.
afford horses. Which I was thinking. First of all, that's brilliant. And it just proves like you can do a lot with a little.
Yeah.
But also I was thinking when I was watching like the Sir Robin part, and I'm just thinking, so I know it's because they don't have a big budget that they can't afford
Yeah.
horses, but I'm also thinking like forget that, just pretend like whatever, like forget that part of it. They're all just going along with this king that's just pretending to ride a horse, and
Yeah,
they're all just like, oh,
and
we
they're
all gotta
doing
do the same
the
thing.
and they're all doing the exact same thing. Yeah. I think throughout this entire movie there's only like one horse in the entire movie. And it's written by the knight who like kills the narrator, and then that sparks the whole Len getting arrested at the end. But
Uh,
here's a fun fact. One of my favorite scenes is the killer rabbit scene, and for that scene, a real rabbit was used and was dyed with red liquid for some shots. The rabbit's owner was so sad to learn that the red liquid wouldn't wash off the rabbit ever, so that rabbit was permanently stained red, like all over its face.
oh
Like
my
it's for
gosh.
they literally like dyed this rabbit like blood red around its face and like matted on its fur, and towards the end of that scene, like there's just like red dye like blobs like all over this rabbit, so it's not even like an even kind of splotch. It was just kind of like random, uneven, like dingy looking. It's like,
My
oh no,
gosh.
that poor rabbit.
It's making me think there's this other. I haven't watched it. I've only watched like a review of it. There's this other really shitty bad movie called Dangerous Men, where there's I guess it's been a while since I've watched it, but there's like think a scene where a car gets like pushed or thrown off a cliff or something, and apparently that was the director's like daughter's car, and it's like,
Yeah.
wait, was she on board with this? Was she like fine with you just destroying her car? Like, I mean, God. That made the bunny, the stained
Yeah.
bunny, made me think of that. Like,
Yeah.
are you aware of the impact you're going to have on the owner of this?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it was intentionally
No,
planned that they would
yeah.
permanently dye the rabbit.
I mean, I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, it was just it was just really funny. And earlier before that, they run into Tim the Enchanter, who was also played by John Cleese in like one of his like 20 role or like 8 roles in this movie. Um, that character actually did have a name. He just forgot. He just forgot it. And on the first take, he just says like, "There are some who call." And he like pauses for a minute because he forgets the actual name for his character, and he just says Tim. And everyone thought that was so funny that they just went with it, and he was Tim the Enchanter from then on.
So wait, his name is Tim
Yeah,
because
his name is Tim the Enchanter because he forgot his lines.
okay, because I hang on, I gotta find it. I had read that, but I thought it was just. Oh, wait a minute, let me find it again because I was pretty. The way it was written, it made it sound like everybody thought that he forgot his line when actually
Yeah.
it was supposed to be like. Let me find it because I'm
Yeah,
now I'm
yeah,
lost.
no. John Cleese played. I'm literally reading this from 3,000 Facts about the greatest movies ever. Reading this straight out. John Cleese played Tim the Enchanter. He chose the name because he forgot the character's actual name on the first take when he said, "There are some who call me Tim."
See, okay, on IMDb it says that like people thought that the enchanter's name is Tim because John Cleese forgot the character's original name and ad-libbed the line, but
Yeah.
then Cleese said that there was no improvisation in the final like version. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, for the first take, he said it was Tim, and then it's like, all right, screw it, that's Tim. So whenever it was done, they just said it was Tim.
I mean, okay,
Yeah,
I believe it. It's I really
yeah,
it's one that's one of those like Ghostbusters is a movie where I really want to see the script because you can definitely make guesses on what's ad libbed. I really want to know
yeah,
what wasn't. I really want to know what was supposed to happen here.
yeah.
This
No,
is that kind of movie.
there was a lot of moments in that movie where it's like this has to be ad lib, like the bit where they're in the or I think it was like Sir Galahad is in the castle with like all the women, and it's like, oh, he's gonna give us spanking. Like they're all like just throwing like sexual innuendos at him like left and right. Is like, okay, how much of this was in the script and how much of this was ad lib, because they are throwing so much innuendos at him. I
Yeah,
can't tell if this was all in here.
yeah.
It's like, oh, wicked bad naughty Zoot, oh, we're going to have to spank her, and then we'll have the oral sex. Like, wait, what's going on?
Wow.
I know. I remember watching this with my parents for the first time, and it was like, what is that? And I was like maybe in like seventh grade. Is like, I don't know what this means. Like, I don't know what they're talking about. Like, all the like literally that entire scene went over my head until like Lancelot showed up. It's like, we're gonna get you out of here. It's like, I bet you're a virgin. It's like, what? No, I'm not. Because he's just like mad. It's like, no, wait, I can take them all on. Just me, single handedly. You guys need to leave.
Oh my god. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like seventh grade was the first time I saw I started watching like pieces of this movie. I think it was in class or something. I don't remember. I think it was
Yeah.
that 13 is a
Oh my god. I'm just like picturing someone playing this in a classroom for middle
I've had,
schoolers.
I'm pretty sure it was definitely I think it was around that time. I think I watched like a scene or something. It wasn't that it's weird. I've watched the weirdest movies. I remember in freshman English, we watched there was an episode of Doctor Who that we watched. It was the Blink episode with
Oh,
the
yeah,
Weeping Angels.
I watched that in high school too in
Oh,
one of my
because it has
classes.
all of these different things we were talking about. And then in one of my classes, in my next year, we were reading Frankenstein, and we had a sub, and she put on Young Frankenstein. And
Because
by
that's
that,
the same.
yeah, because they're the same. I just remember when it shows Gene Wilder, and the thing is, I hadn't seen the whole movie at this point. I think in one of the first like couple times I tried watching it, I wasn't that into it. But when it
Yeah.
showed Gene Wilder, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's Willy Wonka," and I'm just like,
Willy Wonka.
"Yeah, guys, he's an actor." Like,
Yeah, no,
like,
Young Frankenstein is one of my favorite Gene Wilder movies. I
yeah,
absolutely love him in that movie. We're probably going to talk about that for
oh,
this episode at some point. I absolutely love that movie, and this is a funny thing was in high school. I want to say like my junior year, we had like this like a fall like Follies, which is basically like a talent show performance, but like no one wins. It's just you perform. And me and one of my friends in my theater class at the time, we decided to do the putting on the Ritz scene from Young
is there
Frankenstein.
footage of this? I want to see
Probably,
it so bad.
probably. I don't know where it is though. Um, but yeah, we decided to do. Yeah, we decided to do the putting on the Ritz scene, and my friend was gonna be Dr. Frankenstein, and I was the monster. And he literally wheeled me out on like a dolly and had like a sheet over me, and I like a hospital uh like a like a hospital like gown like on, and he would take the sheet off. It's like, I will give you the monster, and it's like, oh, and it's like, walk forward, and I do that whole bit, and then we would turn off the lights in the theater. I would take off uh the hospital gown, and I was wearing like a like
Suit.
almost a tuxedo underneath because I didn't actually have one. And he would give me like this like cane that we made out of like PVC pipe that we just spray painted black, and just put like these like leg stoppers for like chairs and stuff, so we wouldn't like damage anything. And we do like the putting on the Ritz thing. It's like putting on the Ritz. It was really funny. And yeah, no, I definitely want to do this this for an episode now of just
Yeah.
Young Frankenstein.
Trying to think of more
I just,
weird movies I watched in class. My
oh,
bio my freshman year we watched is it Gattaca with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman and Jude Law. And I just remember
I've no idea what this is. I've never heard of
it's
that.
like I guess it's been a long time. I think it's like Ethan Hawke was supposed to be dead, and I don't remember the whole thing. I don't want to get into the plot. I just remember there was a sex scene, and it was upside down. Like it was like flipped for some reason, and the whole class we just turned our heads, like
Kinky?
no, like it was like either the camera was upside down or they flipped it in editing, so it was upside. I'm almost positive it was upside down because I remember turning my head. Like we're all just like, okay, sure.
That's okay. That's funny. In my bio class in my sophomore year, we watched Osmosis Jones because like it had to do with like the inside of the body and the white blood cells.
Okay. Like a year or so ago, I was trying to find this movie because I vaguely remembered the trailer or a commercial, and I was trying to find what was that movie. I remember a guy eating an egg, and then his
that's Osmosis
animated,
Jones.
and I was trying to find what this movie was. I'm like, I remember it. I know this movie exists. What is okay? Yes.
Yeah, Bill Murray is like this like disgusting slob of a person
it's
who
like
works in
Out, except live action and animated and jerk.
Bill Murray is like this like really like disgusting like zookeeper like attendant who's just like working in like a zoo, and inside his body he has like this like all these like animated like white blood cells, and one of them is played by I think Chris Tucker or Chris Rock. I can't remember who. And he's like a detective who like runs around like trying to find like germs and viruses and like taking them all out, so like the body can still function normally. It's a weird movie, but yeah, if you've seen Inside Out, you've seen this movie to a degree.
To a degree.
To a degree,
like if you've seen Cars, you've seen the first Thor.
Yeah, exactly. They're the same movie. Those are the same movie. Prove me wrong.
There's no science in Cars.
Then how do cars work, Sam? Boom, roasted. All right.
That's not. Is that science? That's
science, technology, science. I mean, and that's an offshoot of science, I would say. I would argue that.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I'm pretty sure. I feel like 13 is that's a this is a pretty soft like this. I think 13 is a reasonable age to start watching Monty Python. Python, like.
Yeah. We went on a weird tangent there. Yeah, no, this movie, like, there's nothing like overtly like offensive or like anything like too graphic. It's like first and foremost, it's a comedy, and at times it's like a pretty dry comedy. Like one of the first jokes is like, "Why do you guys have coconuts?" It's like oh, swallows and sparrows migrate, so these are not strangers to our lands. Like, why couldn't a coconut? Are you saying coconuts migrate?
I love that scene because first of all, I feel like even if they never addressed the coconuts, it would still be funny.
Yeah,
but I love that they do. Like that's all he cares about is like.
It's like you guys haven't been right.
What do you mean you found it? It's not from this climate. Like. I just carry a 1 pound coconut, and then later you see a guy tie a coconut to a bird
to a bird and see if he can fly away with it.
And then they just keep going, and then the guards are just still arguing about coconuts versus African
sparrows.
Swallows.
Yeah, swallows and sparrows. Yeah, it's like a running joke throughout the movie, and like that's really the only time they address that is like they're not riding horses. Because then it's never addressed again, and then all the knights are just doing the coconut galloping thing, with like their stable boys, I guess, like their assistants who are just literally just like carrying all their stuff on their backs.
Oh, is it Patsy? Is that the?
Yeah, Patsy, one? and his only line in the entire movie is, "It's only a model when they first get to Camelot."
Oh,
That's his only line in the entire movie is, "It's only a model." It's like, quiet. And it's like, all right, let's go to Camelot. And then like everyone, like all the knights in there are just saying, it's like, we're knights of the round table, da 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 da. Like it's a barbershop
actually,
quartet.
we're not gonna go there. It's weird.
Yeah, it's like, on second thought, let's not go. It's a silly place.
Um,
It's just really funny how they
so
just go through this movie, because there's no rhyme or reason
yeah,
in this movie for like a good 30 minutes when like
but it's not
God
like.
tells them to get the Grail.
But let me,
There's
yeah, but let me say that there are plenty of movies that I've seen where roughly like there are just maybe 30 minutes, maybe a third of the movie, maybe just whatever, a scene, a character. They're just useless. There is really no rhyme or reason for them to be there. But the thing about Monty Python is the whole, or Holy Grail, the whole concept is just to be funny, and
yeah.
it's not the same. I will say there are a couple scenes where I'm like, what the hell was what was the point of that? I think the only scene that I think it's funny but it's not that necessary is the bring out your dead. Like that
Oh,
scene's really funny, but
that seems
that
hilarious.
scene's really funny. I agree, it's really funny. But then like Arthur just rides through, and then that's it. Like
Yeah.
there wasn't really a reason, but that's probably the only scene I would say that it's
Yeah.
not necessary. It's funny, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not dead. It's like, he says he's not dead. It's like, oh, he'll be dead soon. It's like, I'm not dead. I'm getting better. It's like, no, you're not. You'll be bloody dead in 2 minutes. Like, can you come back in a little bit? It's like, no, I have to go up the hill. They lost 9 today. It's like, well, when will you be back? Thursday. It's like, well, come on, isn't there something you can do? It's like, I feel alive. I'm so happy. And then he just kills it. And they just bops him on the head. And then Arthur rides through. It's like, oh, I guess he's king. It's like, how can you be sure? Because he's the only one who doesn't have shit all over.
Oh yeah.
That movie is just so, and that goes into the scene where it's like there's the two peasants that are just arguing over like
I didn't
the
vote
weird.
for him.
Yeah, it's like they're talking. It's like, oh, watch the. I'm being repressed.
I
Stop! I'm
like
being
that scene. Did you see
repressed.
that? You just saw him repress me? Like I yeah.
Yeah,
That was
it's like
funny.
he's trying to like lead like a one man revolt by talking like, it's like, oh, I'm so over this like tyranny monarchy that we have going on. It's like, that's why I'm proud that we have this like oligarchy democratic system going on where no one lives in that castle and we're all mud farmers. Like, what the hell's going on?
I did like that joke of King of what? Britain. What's Britain? Like this is who's British? We all are.
We are all British. It's like, well, I didn't vote for you. It's like, well, you don't vote for your king. Well, how do you become king? Oh, the Lady of the Lake gave me the magic sword Excalibur to prove that my bloodline was worthy. It's like, that is not a proper way to elect a democratic leader. It's like, it's not democratic. It's a monarchy. It's like, and that's the problem with society. It's like, they get so almost self-aware that it's like, you can't say this to a king. He would
Yeah.
kill you.
Yeah. This leads to, for a long time, this was my favorite scene. I think this is almost everybody's favorite scene, or just even this was like one of the few clips I had seen of Monty Python before I actually watched it.
The like really iconic scenes.
Yes, the Black Knight.
Yes. It's only a flesh wound.
Let me pass. No, it's just a scratch. Scratch your arms off.
No, it isn't. It's like,
What's that
what
then?
do you call that? It's like, just a flesh wound. It's like, oh, you're loony.
But
It's
I
like,
love
come
how
on,
later,
you
when
pansy.
he cuts the first time, he actually like it's not even like the swords aren't even going. I know it's the budget again. The swords are not
Yeah.
even going through. They're basically just hitting the arm, and then it falls.
He literally
off.
just like taps him, and his arm falls off, and it spurts blood just like a little bit, like one ketchup packet worth of blood just spurts out.
I know that. So when the Black Knight had one leg, it was a one-legged guy that they had used, and then when the Black Knight has his
no
arm,
legs,
no arms and no arms, no like arms or legs. He's in a hole. He's just standing in a hole.
Yeah, it's like, I wonder how they did that. He's standing up really well for a guy who has no torso, or is only a torso. He has no limbs.
I just love the attitude of King Arthur in this scene. He's like,
he's
scratch
just
your arms off.
yeah,
You're
he's so
just
like,
so shocked. Like, are you what?
it's like, how are you still alive? And then like later on, he's just getting like more. It's like, what are you gonna do? Bleed on me? And he's just the Black Knight's just like is just kicking King Arthur. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, you pansy, I can take you. It's like, you're just gonna do bleed on me? And when
But also,
the
he
Black Knight,
wasn't even just. It's
yeah,
before. So first, he's just like, no, you can't pass. I pass for no man. But um, but King Arthur wants him to join him. Like, he's offering him kind of a job. Like, and he's just like, not even says no. He just was like, doesn't even respond. But then he
yeah,
also just went over his path.
yeah,
Whatever.
I don't know. It was a really funny like scene that is like iconic at this point, and I'm
Yeah,
just glad that like that's like a scene that is like everyone knows from that movie, even if you don't see the movie. That and
yeah.
the run away, run away.
Is that the cow
They,
scene?
yeah,
The Frenchman.
yeah, the when they get attacked by like the Frenchman and like the killer rabbit, they like King Arthur just goes like, run away, run, and they all just haul ass in the opposite direction.
So when so after after the Black Knight, and then there's the whole thing with the witch, and then from there Arthur gets, or it's not a witch, it's just a girl who they put a fake nose on, and they're like, she's a
Yeah,
witch. But they Arthur they get he gets all of his knights of the round table, and then they're going to find the Holy Grail. They find this castle where they just, they're like, oh,
they
I love
yeah, they
join
just
us in
stumbled
the quest
upon
for
it.
Holy Grail. Oh, he's got one already.
It's like, we already got one.
Let's let's
It's like what are you
Also,
French?
John
Like,
Cleese as the French guy.
yeah, it's like, why do you have such a French? It's like, I'm French. Why do you think I'm talking this outrageous accent? What are you doing in England? It's like, mind your own business.
But they won't. They keep saying like, show us the trail, the Grail.
Show us the trail to the Grail.
We'll take the castle by force, and then they launch cows at them. But I gotta
Yeah,
say, what I thought was beautiful cinema was, it kind of has this close. It shows the cow falling, and it's clearly a toy.
yeah. It's like a model from like a train set or like something like
Yeah,
that. It's just like, that's hilarious, and that leads to the like also the banter from the Frenchman, like the French guardsman, is like, it's classic as well. It's like,
yeah.
fart in your general direction. Your father smells of underberries, and your mother was a hamster.
How
It's
is that
just,
an insult?
I mean,
Like,
your mother was a hamster. It's like,
like
I tell you, your mother was a hamster, and you're not going to get offended with that. You're a liar.
I would just be like, I don't, not like, maybe I'd be offended. I'm just trying to think, what is the proper response for somebody calling my mom a hamster? Like,
Declare
um,
war against their entire
no,
nation. I guess,
no,
I don't,
she
siege
isn't.
siege their castle with a Trojan bunny,
Or if
and then
actually,
not get in it.
if somebody called my mom a hamster, I would make some joke and being like, "Oh, I guess that's why I have to go get my eyebrows waxed every couple of months." Like,
What?
I'm making like a hair joke. God.
I you're trying to put logic to something that is illogical, and it's not making any sense, Sam.
Yes. Anyway, don't do that anymore.
Stop applying logic when there is no logic. You're just gonna hurt your brain and everyone else's.
Anyway. Anyway, I'm not
Run
disagreeing with any of
away!
that.
Run
away!
away!
Run away!
She's using logic. Run away! Run away!
It's not my fault.
She's a witch. Burn her! Burn her!
I am obsessed with logic, though. That's my big thing with most movies. This movie, I don't really. I mean, other than so they're all just going along with using coconuts and not having horses. Like,
Yep.
it's like that. That's the only thing. But other than that, like, in most movies, like, I'm obsessed with logic. Like, I don't care how unrealistic everything is, but it has to be realistic. It has to be believable.
Yeah. Like it has to, like,
which is not much to. Which is not. That's not a lot to ask.
yeah, no, like I see what you're getting at. It's
This
like
movie doesn't apply though.
like if a movie has magic, but magic can only be done in like a certain like criteria, like the movie has to follow by that criteria of magic throughout the entire series. Otherwise, it's broken. It doesn't make any sense. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you can only cast magic when it's night out, and you see like some guy casting magic in like the middle of the day. It's like, that makes no sense. How can he do that? No one else can. And the
There
movie
has to
doesn't
be a
explain
why.
that.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
for
there has to be a
me,
why, and when they don't explain something like that, it gets really frustrating for the viewers, and it just feels like we've been lied to this entire movie.
for me, it's more of it tends to just be like, yeah, like rules of the world, but also just like the structure and how like so. I don't think I ever thought about this until I was in like middle school, high school, whatever, and me and my friends were all getting into like Vampire Diaries. And I started
Oh,
like as a joke being like, this is ridiculous. They're all in high school. They never seem to have like homework or projects, like
and
SATs,
they
whatever.
all look like they're in their mid to
They're all in their
late
30s.
20s.
But like
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like it
I was
wasn't
being generous.
but as it went on, I remember it one time zoomed in on someone's phone. And first of all of I loved how all of the they were all characters that we know and they were all completely out of order. But one of them it showed this so I had been it'd been bothering me for a while like how every season they would always have the bad guy's phone number. When did they get his number? Not why, but when. When did they exchange numbers? Who gave them this person's number? And then one time it zoomed in. Is when it zoomed in on her this person's phone. I saw a character who she had interacted with a few times, and one of them he had tried to kill her. Or one or two of them he tried to kill her. So it makes no sense why she'd have his number, why she still has his number. It just bothered me so much. Like it's that kind of stuff where I'm like, that doesn't make sense. It's usually the tiny details for me that
Yeah, that
pull the
is a
whole
bit
thing
weird.
apart. Which I know that's in. I'm sure someone's like, that's nitpicking. It is, but like that's just me an example of like those things. Too much of those become sloppy.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that makes sense. Like enough of that will eventually build up into a failure for
yeah,
you. Is that what you're getting at?
yes, eventually. But
Okay,
like Monty
okay.
Python doesn't like that's different. The whole movie's supposed to be illogical, and so I don't
Yeah,
like
the
question
whole
that kind
movie's
of.
not. Yeah,
I don't question that because that's the whole joke of the movie. Yeah,
yeah. The whole movie's nonsensical, and it doesn't establish any real like consequences or rules, or like yeah consequences for not following any rules because there's no rules in this movie. It's just these guys are trying to find the Holy Grail, and they keep encountering various situations where someone either has information and isn't telling them anything, and they just never find a workaround. It's just like, well, we're just gonna kind of keep doing like this like banter back and forth, or like nothing gets solved, or something gets solved in like the most violent way possible.
yeah.
And I'm talking about Lancelot
My
killing everyone at the
my
wedding.
that's I'm about to say yeah. My this is probably my favorite part of the movie. So this prince is about to get married. Doesn't want to get married. He just wants to sing, but no, he can't sing. Like every time
Yeah,
he starts
yeah.
to sing, his dad's like, no, no, cut the music. Like,
It's like no, we're not doing this. This isn't a musical, damn it.
he sends out a note, and the note, by like through in like an arrow by shooting an
Yeah,
arrow, the arrow
yeah. He shoots
lands
an arrow.
in Lancelot's like
Manservant, I guess.
manservant, and he's like, and Lancelot like it's a person in distress, and he thinks he thinks it's a woman, like
Yeah, he thinks it's a princess.
and he goes to, and so we're shot of the castle, the two guards, and it just keeps cutting back and forth to Lancelot just running.
And it's the same clip of him running, so
and
he's
he
making
might
no
get a little
progress.
farther. He might be getting a little farther, but then it cuts back and he's like starting over again. And then he finally, and it keeps happening. So we have no idea when he's actually going to show up. And then just suddenly, aha! He just like, hey!
He just kills everyone there, and no one's attempting to stop him.
I noticed.
Like
so,
no,
yeah, he's cutting.
everyone's just like mildly annoyed that he's just kind of like interrupting them, and
like,
like what they're doing is just like hi. He's just killing everyone, like smashing like the pots on the walls. He's just
oh yeah, I love.
he's just
like,
going like full rampage on.
There's like a thing on the wall of flowers, and he like hits his sword with it, like aha. But I think something I noticed, he's going through just like killing everybody, and there's this like group of people, these girls like dancing and spinning, and he's killing most of them, and like three of them just keeps going, just keeps spinning and dancing.
Yeah, no one like acknowledges he's there until he kills them, and then even when he is killing them, like the person right next to them, doesn't really notice or bat an eye that the person right next to them is now being stabbed to death by some maniac in plate mail armor with a sword.
Like, even the guard, when he kills the guard, and the other guard's just like, hey. Like,
Hey, that's not nice. Like,
but
that's not
like, they
nice.
just, I don't even know if it's the running or the, aha! Like,
Yeah, he,
goes
he just
up.
shows up. It's like, haha! It's like, on God.
He then gets to the prince's room and realizes, like, oh, it's
It's
a
like,
guy.
it's like, oh, I've made a horrible mistake.
And the dad, he's like, and he starts to sing again. The dad runs in, like, no! And then they're just having, he's like, do you realize you just killed, like people from this, for this wedding? And this prince is still just, like, attempting to escape. He's like, oh, so, and Lancelot's just like, oh, I'm terribly sorry. Terribly, like,
It's like, well, it's like, I thought your son was a woman. It's like, yeah, no, that, like,
he's
yeah, I
like,
think
oh,
that too
fair enough.
sometimes.
The humor, just it's so absurd.
Yeah.
That's why
Like,
it's so
like,
absurd and over the top. That's why it's so funny.
yeah, and it's just really funny because there's like a lot of like disappointed dad jokes. Like the dad is just like so done with the son. It's like, oh yeah, no, I can see why you think my son was like a woman.
It made me think,
Yeah.
this is very random, and I know some of our friends are gonna get it, but it made me think of, if you remember, and you know what, points for you if you don't remember or get it. But it's did you see the second Mulan?
A long time ago,
So,
yeah.
like, she decides to, I mean, without getting into the whole story, she decides to, like, go, she thinks Shang's dead and is gonna finish this mission and gonna marry this random prince guy who's obsessed
Oh yeah.
with those, like, finger, like,
Oh yeah, like those Chinese finger traps.
yeah,
Like, yeah, no,
and he's, like,
okay,
skinny and
yeah,
just, like, just playing with it, and he doesn't really want to get married either. That's just, it
yeah.
just kind of reminded, that this guy just reminded me of him. Like,
Oh, okay.
just the, like, I don't really want to get married, and he's skinny and awkward. Like,
Okay, their setup to that punchline, I was expecting is like, is this some gonna be like weird inside joke? And it's like, I don't. It's like, okay, it's like,
I don't know how
okay,
many
you're
of our
explaining about
listeners are aware of the
Mulan 2.
of the brilliance and shittiness that is Disney sequels, straight to DVD Disney sequels.
I mean, it's probably on Disney Plus. Give it a watch if you want.
I'm
If
sure
you
it
want to
is.
kill 2 hours, yeah, no,
I remember how excited I was to see that there were, as bad as they range from, this is the worst thing ever, to, this is actually not that bad.
yeah.
So I was excited that even that they were all on Disney Plus, I gotta say. But anyway, it just, so the character in Mulan 2 made me remind, or the guy in Monty Python reminded me of that character, a little bit. But
Okay.
that only reference makes sense if you've seen it. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, no, it. All right, I don't really know where to go from there.
But anyway, so
aside
yeah,
from talking
Lancelot
about
just
the,
killed just randomly, just killed a bunch
Yeah.
of people. He didn't even think about it. And also, he didn't know anything other than, my father's forcing me to get married, and so it makes sense why he thinks it's a girl. I mean, there is no indication
Yeah.
that it's a girl. There's no indication that it's a guy. But, like, he just goes in and kills everybody. Like,
Yeah,
he
no,
probably
like not
could
even
have gotten
not,
in. He probably could have gotten in, like, or if he
no
had just killed.
problem.
I mean, I guess the guards, I don't know if how people are just walking in. He could have just maybe walked in or killed
Yeah.
just that one guard. He didn't need to kill everybody.
Yeah, no. It's like, instead of just like killing guards, he's like killing like women and like unarmed civilians. There's like, dude,
Does he kill the bride?
He kills the father of the bride.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, he kills the father of the bride, and like that's one of the reasons why like the dad of like the guy who's getting married is like so upset. It's like, you killed the father of the bride. Like, who's gonna give her away at the wedding? It's like, I was like, he's like trying to like spin this so it could like work for him, but it's just like, dude, like this is a weird situation. I don't know how you this one.
I mean, what a twist for Lancelot.
It's like, it's like, what a twist. You just killed half of a wedding party, kind of on accident. Kind of sort of on purpose, but also on accident. So sorry, not sorry, I guess.
Yeah. Aha!
It's like, haha. just how he announces himself to the guards, haha, and he just stabs.
I love Lancelot. I think, I don't know. But I do love the Sir Robin and his, like, he comes across the 3-headed guy, and they're like just getting their own conversation about how they're gonna kill him, and then Prince Rob, Prince Robin, Robin,
Yeah,
Sir Robin leaves, and
yeah.
the
His
minstrels
like
are just singing like Sir Robin
brave
ran
ran
away.
away.
No, I
He
didn't.
bravely ran away, and then he ran away some more. And it's like there's like his bars just like won't shut up. It's like, oh, who are you? It's like he's brave sword. It's like shut up. It's like
Yeah.
don't tell him who I am.
Which I gotta say, I love his wig because it's very hilariously
Oh
obvious a wig.
yeah, yeah. It's almost as obvious as the wig that is worn by um at the end of Venom for like the character who's going to play Carnage in Venom 2. Oh god, Woody Harrelson's character.
What?
Yeah,
Woody
yeah.
Harrelson? I first of all, Woody Harrelson. Which one's Carnage again?
He's Venom, but he's red.
Okay, so he's,
Okay, so yeah,
but
he's
he's like Venom, but he's red. So he's
yeah.
not like because like Spider-Man's like Venom, but he's red, but he's different powers. Like
No, they pretty much have like the similar powers.
I mean, but they come from yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no. Like Venom, like straight up just like has like pretty much the exact same moveset as Spider-Man, and Venom is just like has the same moveset as Venom, but he can also like transform his limbs to like have like crazy like long claws, so he can like tear cars in half and stuff. Yeah, basically Carnage is like a way more evil and sadistic version of Venom, and Venom's already a villain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay. We definitely
yeah.
got
So
to do Venom. I really want to see it.
it
I know it's bad,
not
but I really
that good.
I know
Yeah.
that doesn't that's the wrong ploy. That's the wrong play there to say to me like it's bad.
It's like
And yeah,
yeah.
and
But yeah, no, like at the end of the movie, there's like not even like an end credit scene. There's like a mid credit scene where like Eddie Brock is like or like Venom, like he like goes to a prison to like interview like the serial killer Cletus Cassidy, and he like wrote in like in his jail cell in like blood is like welcome Eddie is like hey, I'm getting interviewed today for a magazine. It's like, oh, this is awesome, and it's literally just Woody Harrelson wearing like this really shitty like Party City like Annie wig. Like they literally just like this like red afro from like an Annie like Halloween costume,
yeah.
put it on his head, and it's like good enough. It's like he needs to wear red. Like he needs to wear red so people will know that he's going to be Carnage. And then he literally like it's like, and then he like literally looks in the camera. It's like, you know what's going to happen when I get out of here? We're going to have, and he looks directly at the camera. Carnage, tongue in cheek, wink.
I
It's
mean,
like, what?
I'm trying
It's
to
like,
think. Were they like in the day they're shooting that? We need something red. We need something red.
it's like I was like I just got out of like this like dress rehearsal for like
Oh
like an Annie thing.
my daughter's at school is playing Annie. Get the wig.
It's
Get
like,
the wig.
get the wig. Yeah, no, it's like the crappiest like Party City wig.
I hate shitty
God,
wigs.
this is all I could. It's that's such a weird thing to say. I hate shitty wigs.
No, I do like it's a pet peeve because you see so for like again like almost all of the things that do bother me in a lot of the things that bother me in movies they can't really say they happen in Monty Python. They kind of do, but again, the whole concept is to be absurd and ridiculous, so it doesn't even occur to me. Like
Yeah,
I know it's there, but it doesn't even occur to me because it's supposed to be funny. It also they don't have a good budget, which kind of makes it even more funny. Like it works. It works for the story and the concept. But like no, you've seen enough movies with me. You have
yeah,
to know that I have a weird thing about hair when I'm watching a movie, and if their hair's really good, if it's good, if I love their hair, that's all I'm thinking, and if it's really bad, that's all I'm thinking. But when it's a wig, I just hate when I can tell it's a wig. That's really what it is, because I'm just like I don't know. Like I remember in the third Twilight movie, Kristen Wiig, she had her hair short, so she had to wear a wig. Fine. But half the scenes, I don't know if she was wearing two wigs or if there was rain. I don't know what was going on, but half the time she was wearing this one wig where it looked really like too nice, like it took too brushed out and like soft and whatever. It just looked, and you could tell it was a wig because it looked not like hair. I mean, it looked like hair, but it looked too
Yeah.
nice. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it didn't look tangly or anything like that. Whereas this other wig looked like a mop. Like, it looked
Yeah.
like curly and a mop, and it would change. Like, I'm not kidding. It'd be the same. It's supposed to be the same day, and her hair would just change. It bothered me so much. I'm like, what? What's the situation? Why is she either wearing two wigs and one's way shittier than the other, or like, is it? I don't know. It bothered me so much. It's more just I don't like when I can tell that it's a wig. So it's not as much that they're wearing it or why they're wearing it. It's when it's noticeable. That's really what it is. But if Sir Robin, it's funny because it just makes it's because it's supposed to look like medieval times. Like the
Yeah.
style, so it's supposed to look kind of ridiculous. And that again, it was funny there. Like that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. No, it's just everything about this movie is nonsensical. Makes sorry, trying not to sneeze. Sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze right now. Um, yeah, no, the entire movie is just nonsensical and weird, so that it makes sense that their costumes and the way they look is equally nonsensical and weird, and how they just go about doing their entire movie. It's fantastic how they go about doing all this like stuff in the movie.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this movie, and yeah, no, definitely see this. This was like my first introduction to Monty Python, and it's a really solid introduction.
Have you seen all of Monty Python?
I've seen Monty Python, Holy Grail. I've seen Monty Python and the Life of Brian, which is also a really funny movie. Both of those are on pretty much like everything Monty Python is on Netflix.
Is Monty Python the first one that they did?
Monty Python's the group.
Is because of me because when I think cause I feel like when most people say Monty Python, they're talking about Holy Grail. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So
No,
is Holy Grail the first one?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know if this was their first. I think it might have been their first movie, but they've been doing stuff for like they had like their own kind of like sketch show,
Yeah.
like Flying Circus, I believe is what it's called,
Yeah.
for a really long time.
Yeah.
And like one of my favorite, and I'm pretty sure this is from Flying Circus, is nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, and it's just like that is probably like one of their like most iconic sketches from that. Yeah, like definitely give that one just like a quick search on YouTube. It is hilarious, and it kind of gives you like a feel of like their like personality and like their style of comedy.
Yeah. Okay. How many do they have? Do you know?
I think there's only like the two that I'm aware of, and that's Holy Grail and Life of Brian. They might have had another one, but I'm not super familiar if they do have one or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just those two that I'm aware of. They might have just had like a couple like really long like specials for Flying Circus or something like that technically qualify as movies, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
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 Sorry, yeah,
No,
this is
go
a
ahead.
really funny movie. There's really. I'm trying to think. Is there anything like this other than Life of Brian? Is there anything like this? It's. I mean, I think the only thing that could maybe compare is Mel Brooks style, but like a little bit like of the absurdity and almost sometimes being self-aware. And just I mean, I know that this movie in particular was kind of a nightmare. A little bit, not a nightmare. It was just not fun to make. But
yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was like going wrong behind the scenes. Like the actor who played Arthur in this movie was suffering through alcoholism through this scene, so he was it must have been a delight to work with.
Oh shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Also, another fun fact: he was the only one in the cast who was wearing actual armor that was weighing about like 55 pounds or something, whereas everyone else was just wearing like all their armor was just made out of. But yeah, his armor was it weighed 25 pounds. Sorry, I messed that up.
Where did he wear real armor?
Because I guess they only had money in the budget for one real armor, so it made sense that.
Because it didn't look any different between.
I guess they wanted to give like the most like real looking armor to the guy playing the king.
Yeah.
So I was like, I guess that makes sense. And everyone else was just wearing like wool armor to make it look like they were wearing like actual armor. and just like pretending to wear like chainmail underneath it.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, Graham Chapman played the lead role, King Arthur. He suffered from horrific alcoholism throughout filming.
Fun.
So fun! Yay! Yeah. Monty Python and the Holy Grail from 1955. Definitely give this a watch.
Say
Check out
1955.
1975. Sorry,
oh my, wow, really?
Yeah,
Wow, okay,
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, from 1975. Sorry, I meant to say 75. Yeah, brain vomit. Thank you for catching that.
I'll specify. I'll specify. When I upload this, that this is Monty Python the Holy Grail from 1975.
Yes, because they're yeah, not the one from 55. Sorry, guys, I watched the wrong movie apparently. So is there anything else you want to add to this?
For Monty Python, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
But got to talk about, so this past weekend was the Oscars. I was pretty happy with most, like, so Joaquin Phoenix, who we talked about before, and Joker won the Oscar for
Best actor.
Brad Pitt won
for Best Supporting Actor, right?
Yeah, which I was thinking, like, if anything, he seemed more like the lead, or they both felt like the lead. It didn't really feel like he was.
They both kind of shared like equal parts of the screen. Like I didn't feel like one was like above the other.
It wasn't like,
for the most part.
I know, like in for example, in Django Unchained, how Christoph Waltz was nominated and won for Best Supporting Actor, and I guess that was because they look at it by time. So the lead has to be in there for a longer amount of time than supporting, and I guess Christoph Waltz's character was there for a long time. That, like, it's, I think, like on IMDb or something, if you look it up, it says something like he was there longer than most, like, than they usually would. I don't know. Which I just think, to me, I feel like, who cares about the amount of time as long as they are the supporting character, like, as long as they do the job, like, who cares? Brad Pitt won,
and Parasite won Best Picture, if I'm not mistaken.
So my friends and I did, we did this last year. We did filled out like a ballot to see, like, and then last year the losers have to buy the winner a drink, and this year the losers had to buy the winner, like, we ordered food and the losers had to pay for their dinner, like, so, and
that sounds like fun.
Yeah, so we all put 1917 for Best Picture. I was debating, because I was like, it's gonna be Parasite or 1917? Maybe Jojo Rabbit. It's gonna be Parasite or 1917.
Yeah.
And I was almost like, I was debating because for a long time, like, it's gonna be 1917 for sure. But because there's been so much buzz about Parasite,
I still need to see that movie.
I want to see it now too. They won a bunch. They won Best Picture. They won Best Original Screenplay, Best Director, which was really, if anyone, I recommend, just, if you haven't seen it, look it up on YouTube. It's really sweet, because he is a pretty new director, and he was, so first of all, he speaks entirely, I mean, he had like a few sentences that he could speak in English, but he had a translator, and he was up there talking about how he couldn't even believe that fact that he was in the same category as, like, most of his heroes, and how, like, he was he learned through Martin Scorsese, like, in school, and so the fact that, and, like, it was just really sweet and, like, really touching. And then, like, Elton John and Bernie Taupin won for Best Original Song, and, like,
nice.
I messed up for Best Animated Feature.
What did you put for Best?
Well, I should have just put Toy Story, because I feel like that was pretty obvious. The thing is, like, I feel like last time it was Toy Story, like Toy Story 3, it was very obvious. Yeah, Toy Story 3 is gonna win, like, for sure. That wasn't a debate. But this time, because they didn't win the Golden Globe, so I was debating, and then I just put How to Train Your Dragon, which my friends were like, that's the one that was never gonna win. I'm like, well,
you never know.
Yeah, like,
everybody likes an underdog story, man.
Yeah, exactly. And then so I don't know how to pronounce her name, but Joker won Best Score, and she's I think it's the first female composer, at least in like 25 years or something like that. Like, so nice. Definitely, it was it was a nice night for First, which I thought was it was really
Yeah,
fun to watch.
I was also just like really proud, like the amount of like people that were like not like the amount of movies that were nominated. Like I had actually seen them. It was like, oh, like wow, they're actually like these are actually like really fun like Oscar movies, because like most of the time, like I'm not saying like I go out of my way to avoid like Oscar movies, because they literally only come out during award season to make awards,
They come
which
out,
I feel yeah.
yeah, it's like there's a certain, they can come out at any time, but they typically will hit like it'll say like it'll hit theaters in the fall so it can be there for award season. Because I feel like if they come out too
Yeah,
early, they tend to be forgotten. But I don't know. I feel
yeah,
like that like Black Panther last year went to the Oscars and it came out February. I think just before or just after the last
yeah.
Oscars. So it's
But yeah, no, I was mainly just like really proud. I was like I had seen like half the nominees for like Best Picture, and we talked about all of them on the podcast too. It's like, oh, this is awesome.
we haven't talked about Jojo Rabbit or Parasite, but
Yeah,
one
yeah.
day.
Well, we haven't seen them, so that's
Yes,
why.
well, yes, exactly, for sure.
um, but yeah, moving on to other news. I'm actually really excited about this. I recently just found this out. According to BloodyDisgusting.com, Universal and Blumhouse are developing a new version of The Thing, which is one of my favorite horror movies, that will adapt the long lost original novel. So
Oh yeah, I feel like I heard that.
yeah,
Is there a
yeah.
cast or
So
anything,
recently,
or is it still
not right.
in development?
This is still in development right now. So, The Thing from Another World was originally adapted from a novel by John W. Campbell Jr. by the novel Who Goes There, and he wrote another like expansion to that called Frozen Hell, and the transcript for Frozen Hell was just recently discovered, and Frozen Hell is now expands the Thing story dramatically, giving vital backstory and context to an already incredible tale. And I could not be more excited about this, because we're literally getting a fresh remake of The Thing, the John Carpenter version with Kurt Russell,
Hmm.
that focuses a lot more on like the backstory to The Thing, and it kind of like answers a lot of like the questions and that movie left us, because that movie was straight up made to not answer any questions. Like they don't like answer, did they kill the Thing? Is Kurt Russell or like Childs or is McCready or Childs, is one of them the Thing, or both the Thing? Are they both survivors, and are
What's
they
the
just going to die?
plot of The Thing?
The Thing is an American run research base in Antarctica. Encounters this guy in a helicopter who is chasing down this dog and is trying to kill this dog, and they like have a scuffle, and they end up killing these two like helicopter pilots. And later on, and they was like, hey, these guys were Norwegians, like we got to check out their base. They have a base like just up ahead. Is like, hey, we're isolated out here, for all I know we could be at war with Norwegia, right? or Norway or something like that. So they send like a couple guys to investigate their base, and meanwhile at their base, they put the dog that the Norwegian guys were trying to kill in like the pen with their dogs, and that night the dog kind of changes into like this formless thing, like this like full on body horror thing, and is trying to absorb the other dog so it can be like assimilate them and like multiply. Like the Thing is literally just like this parasite thing that infects a host, consumes them, and makes a complete exact replica of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
I think
it's a
I kept thinking, I don't know why, because it's just called The Thing. I think for a long time I kept thinking it was like the horror version of like Flubber for some reason.
what?
Like visually, that's what I thought. I thought it was just like a thing, and it was just like that's kind of what I like. It was
I think
evil. Like it wasn't
I,
like I don't
I
know.
think you're thinking of the Blob.
I probably
An evil thing of Flubber is probably the Blob, and there were two versions of there. Original one with Steve, and then there was one that came out in the '80s that had like this like weird kind of like retro like 3D kind of look to it. Because I think this was filmed in like they originally filmed it in 3D, and there were scenes that looked like oh, this was clearly like supposed to be in 3D, but watching it on TV, it just looks like really weird.
Yeah.
Like it's literally just like this like pink like gelatin like ooze kind of like moving forward in the background, and our characters are like in the foreground, but you can clearly tell that these are like two separate scenes because they don't match.
Oh boy.
Like it's literally like a green screen almost of like what was in the background, but it's like a pre-shot scene of like just the blob moving,
Yeah.
and then like the characters are like in the same scene but are just sticking just into the foreground, and they're running away from it, but they're actually like interacting with the scene. So it's like they splice two different footage, like they splice the footage together of like them filming at two separate times in the same, and it looks really funny. Like it's very dated looking, but it's actually a really fun movie.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, no, the Thing movie coming out with like Universal and Blumhouse, I cannot wait for this. I actually kind of want to go out and see if I can find a copy of Who Goes There or Frozen Hell, just so I can like kind of read it and kind of know what to expect.
So that's the title of the book. It's Frozen Hell.
Frozen Hell, the original movie, like way back in like I think the 50s, was called Thing from Another World, and that was like that was a much closer adaptation to the original novel Who Goes There. And then the author of that book wrote like basically like rewrote Who Goes There in a book called Frozen Hell, which is kind of like expanded on everything that went on in that book.
Okay.
Yeah, so
sorry,
really excited about that.
I just looked on IMDb, and the very first thing it just says Aladdin sequel in the works. And I'm like,
oh jeez.
So we will get there. We will get there eventually. There were a lot of things about this movie I liked, and there were a lot of things that bothered me so much. So, but I remember they had talked about like the possibility of it, and I remember I texted you and our other friend, Josie, who basically, if we're ever doing Aladdin, she's in on this. There's no way we're doing this movie without her. Or pretty much any Disney movie without her. But
also just one more fun fact. Danny Trejo has officially topped Christopher Lee as the most killed actor in Hollywood with 65 on-screen deaths.
More than what about Sean Bean? Does he even rank?
I don't know where he ranks on that list, but apparently the number one person that was killed in Hollywood for a long time was Christopher Lee, and now Danny Trejo has taken the crown for that.
What a weird crown, but okay.
Yeah, it's like weird flex, but okay, I'll take it. Yeah, I mean both are fantastic actors.
All right. Anyway, really quick, just so I remember they had talked about, because Aladdin was, a box office hit, and I remember finding an article saying that there was talks to do another one, and it said, it literally just said, there is, Aladdin sequels, and the first sequel is honestly kind of terrible, and I laughed so hard because it is before, ironically that we're bringing this now, that I find this now when we just talked about this like however long ago. That is when I say they rank from this is the worst thing ever to this isn't bad. It is those sequels. King of Thieves is one of the really way better Disney sequels, and Return of Jafar is one of the shittiest ones. So I don't know. I'm just laughing. Am I gonna go see this movie, this live action Aladdin sequel? Yes, absolutely, I will.
I'm probably not. I think the only live action like remake that I've seen recently was the live action Jungle Book one that was directed by Jon Favreau. That's literally the only like recent like live action remake that Disney's made that I've seen. I haven't seen Beauty and the Beast. I haven't seen Lady and the Tramp. I haven't seen Cinderella. I'm probably not going to see Mulan or Aladdin. It's like, it's not that I don't hate it. It's just I've already seen these movies. I'm not going to pay like $10 to see a movie that I've already seen.
We'll get in this more because we're sorry, buddy. We're doing these.
But, all right.
A lot of the problem is there's this weird. I'm all for seeing a live action version. To me, it's kind of like taking a book and making it into a movie. The problem is
Yeah.
that some of these, they change too much. And there's this weird balance because I feel like I've seen it when they change it too much. It's not too much. It's when they try to be exact and recreate stuff. It either is great or it's terrible. It's weird. It's hard to explain. You have to kind of watch the movie. But like some of these movies, like Cinderella, goes off book, and to me, it's a really solid movie. It's actually to me one of the few live actions that you could maybe compare to the original. Um,
Yeah.
but like a lot of them, because they're so beloved, they're trying to be it's like a mix. It's like they don't want to commit to it being exactly like the original, but they don't want to commit to it being off book. And so
Yeah, it's
it's
like they need to focus on like the story that like people are familiar with,
and
like first and foremost, and try to make it different. It's a weird balance, and
which
like
is
some
why,
people
like,
are for it, but
yeah,
yeah,
Lion King and Jungle Book, Lion King did it. Like, and the thing, Lion King wasn't as much of a box office hit, and it did have lower on Flickster. It had a lower rating than Aladdin, ironically. But
yeah,
but directing wise, I thought Jon Favreau nailed it and figured out what needs to happen in
yeah.
these
No,
movies to make
I
them
thought
work.
I
Um,
thought Jungle Book was pretty solid because like
no,
there's
it
like
was definitely
yeah,
solid. They
yeah, and then
ran with they for sure, for
yeah,
sure.
no, there's just like a couple different like versions of Jungle Book like out there. Like there was one that was made by I think it was like
Andy Serkis.
y- what?
So there's the original, there's the Jungle Book, the animated one. There's the
Yeah,
Jon Favreau one. There was that weird one in like the 90s, the Jungle Book Mowgli story. I never saw that. And then there
yeah, the
was
Mowgli story, and then there was one
the
by
Andy
I
Serkis one that was just called Mowgli, that's on Netflix.
yeah, and
Um
then there was another one that came out I think in the 90s as well that had like a way more like adult feel to it because it's like Mowgli is like all grown up, like he's like a full grown like man, and it's kind of like a mix between Jungle Book and Tarzan.
okay.
Um, and it's just called Jungle Book. It's literally like the exact same characters, but like the animals in it, like they don't talk. It's just mainly Mowgli dealing with um him trying to cope with the fact that it's like I'm a man cub. It's like what does that mean? It's like I was raised by wolves, and it's just him dealing with like these like British colonists that are like, no, you're a human. Like you're definitely a guy. It's like, oh, that's not what King Louis said. It's like me hanging out with him and his treasures. Like, wait, there's treasures. Like, okay,
Is
lead
this
us there. It's
movie
like we're your
bad
friends.
or is it good?
No, it's actually really yeah.
Okay.
It was directed by the same guy who directed I think it's called Four Feathers, which also kind of like has like a like an old like British imperialist look to it, which kind of like it's takes place like roughly like around the same time of like British like expansion into like India and like Turkey and like those kind of areas. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, this one just like it's like what if Mowgli had to deal with like the like British soldiers and
Okay.
them trying to like take advantage of like his knowledge to like steal the treasure that King Louis has, that the orangutan character.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
because yeah, it's a really solid movie. I want to rewatch it because I haven't seen that movie in years, but it's like that is like one of the few Jungle Book adaptations. Is like this is really solid. This is nothing like the cartoon.
Yeah, we're getting into a hole now of like live action Disney,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I I mean, I've got plenty of stuff to say, but I gotta gather my thoughts more because
yeah.
I finally have a platform to share my thoughts. Okay. Um
All right.
um
On that note, I think it's time we say goodbye to all you lovely people.
and yeah, just so so follow us on like Apple, Spotify, forgot to actually let you know this, Kevin. We are currently on Facebook too. Facebook page
Oh,
is called
sweet.
Movie Reel Podcast. Just like and subscribe. Keep following us. And feel free on the Facebook page. I mentioned this there. Make comments about movies you want to see or want us to watch and want us to talk about.
Yeah,
And we will gladly do it. And
yeah. And
yeah,
share this with your friends, please.
yes,
Share this. Share this. We
please.
want,
God.
please.
We're trying to make a living.
Yes, the curse can only be broken if 1,000 people share this.
Thinking like Peter Pan, like on Broadway when it's like, clap if you believe in fairies.
Yes,
Clap.
yes. We can't stop doing this until our show gets 1,000 views. Please, you have to make it happen. The curse has to be broken, otherwise I turn into a pumpkin at midnight.
If we ever hit 1,000, like 1,000 anything, and then I'll replay that clip and we'll be like, I guess we'll keep going.
All right.
Maybe.
All right. So until next time, folks, I'm Kevin Tracy.
I'm Samantha Tomlinson, and this has been Ruby Reel. Thanks.
Bye bye.